So, more on the Muslim dilemma. Okay, so one of the defenses to the Muslim dilemma is the Quran approves the gospel and then later says the gospel's corrupt. And so if Allah's words can't be corrupted, it can't become corrupted. And I think there's a thing in the Quran about it saying not being able to be lost. But the idea supposedly today that the only versions we have are the corrupted version. Well, that doesn't fit. There's this word, I'll say it, but I'm going to print it out in the title or here because I won't pronounce it right. And it sounds like Tahrif, okay? But this is this principle that early in the process, the material got corrupted or lost. So Jesus, according to them, Jesus was given the book, the gospel, whatever that was, and he lost it, or someone else lost it, or someone else changed it. Someone else said, oh, we'll call it the gospel, but it will have this plot. But again, see, that just doesn't fit with the Quran, because the Quran tells people the years, supposedly Muhammad lived in 60, started getting his revelations in the year 620, and he said over many times things like, well, Christians and Jews are people of the book and they'll go to heaven. He says, well, you Christians and Jews, you have your book and you should judge by your book because it kind of agrees with our book, which it doesn't, but that's what it said. They say. So it's like, no, you can't say that it was some earlier copy we no longer have, because all of the books of the canon of the New Testament and the Old Testament were set well before 620 AD. So they're verifying what was in circulation then, and it's only later when they see there's some big errors there that they come out with this new theology. It's hot. Let me see if I can turn this down a little. I'll talk louder. Like you need that. So you can't. What's that beep about? Who knows? So you can't use these things and say, "Oh no, the original got lost," because we have what we had then. My goodness, look at the book of the prophet Isaiah, right? The earliest copy of that we had was 1,000 years old, where it was translated from, right? Well, now we have the Dead Sea Scrolls. There was a complete book of the prophet Isaiah in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And guess what? It matches what we have today. There are no, changes, some big, conspiracy. A lot of atheists would say, oh, no, the book of Isaiah, that's obviously corrupt, because monks in the Middle Ages put in the things about Jesus, the crucifixion and these different things, and the fact that the book of Isaiah mentions the Cyrus is going to come and free, the people in Babylon. So that's like 400 years before it happened or something. Oh no, that had to have been added later, much later. It's like, well, no. Now we've got a copy that's dates to somewhere in that 0 to 200 AD range, and it's the same. And so the idea that it got altered from at least from 200 AD to now is just erroneous, and we can prove it. But it's just this idea. But you'll see that Muslims use the scriptures they want to and don't use other scriptures, because somehow they know which ones weren't corrupted. And they make these erroneous things. They know that if they're going to get Christians or Jews, they have to find some prophecy of Muhammad coming. And at one time, which was utterly ridiculous, and they don't do it anymore, is that the Old Testament, them talking about this person that's going to come, it isn't Jesus, it was Muhammad. And that's just totally inconceivable, because Muhammad didn't fulfill anything in the Old Testament or New Testament scriptures, nothing, except maybe being the Antichrist or something. I don't know. But it's just, it just doesn't work. So you're stuck with it. Now, we got to realize, okay, if the Quran was divinely inspired, it would not contain these errors. You know, God would have known when he started revealing the Quran to Muhammad what the gospel was, what the Torah was. He would have known all that. He wouldn't have come up with substantial differences in the plot, which he does. And it's like, that's the problem. So we have to invent this thing, this theory that all these things get corrupted. And again, it doesn't fit, because they verify the books, you know, the Old Testament, the Torah, the Gospels at that time. And so here's what happened. Like I say, if it was written by God, there wouldn't be all these errors in it. But if it was written by a person, it might still well have those errors. So Muhammad started getting these scriptures. He couldn't read or write, says the Quran, right? So he would memorize these, and someone else would, you know, a lot of people would memorize them, but some people would write them down. Well, the problem became, once you give an early verse saying one thing, it's going to match throughout the work. You can't say, you know, Christian Jews, they have their own book. They can judge by it. They're going to heaven. Don't worry about them too. When you meet an unbeliever, slay him. That's a change. That's a big change. Well, some people believe, I took this one course, and I wish I could remember exactly. I'll have to see if I can find that somewhere again. But that the verses were revealed to Muhammad, or he got the verses, and they were what was happening in his personal life. At the beginning, he thought Jews and Christians would accept him as a prophet. Why wouldn't they? He's wonderful. He's hearing from God. Well, what happens is they totally reject him. Then all of a sudden, the verses about Christians and Jews start getting kind of violent. And that kind of matches his life, you know? He thought he would go to the Jews and say, hey, I'm the new prophet. And the Jews look at him and say, you're not the Messiah. You're not only are you not from the tribe of Judah, or or from Bethlehem, you're not even one of the person from the 10 tribes of Israel. Therefore, we totally disregard you. You're saying your thing, we don't want to hear it because you're not. And then Christians, okay, again, here's the year 600. He goes to the Christians and says, I'm the prophet that you've been waiting for. And the Christians are like, we're not waiting for a prophet. He's like, what do you mean? Well, yeah, Jesus Christ was the final revelation of the Father. There isn't going to be another key, revelation that a person's going to bring that isn't already in the person of Jesus Christ and in this canon of Scripture. The canon means this is the church has said these are the books. So the Christians say, no, sorry, go next door, go somewhere else. We don't believe you. We don't want to hear about you. Well, he starts getting angry after that, Muhammad, and stuff are getting more violent. But again, this idea that, Scripture, the Quran is pretty clear saying that the words of Muhammad can't be corrupted. And then Muslims will want to say, no. He didn't say that for the other 3 books he wrote. He just said it for the last book he wrote. It's like, what? These books all pre-existed. Creation in heaven, these books. And so, he said they can't be corrupted, so they can't be corrupted. And it's like, it just doesn't work. And like I say, people come up with an argument, but you really listen to it, and it breaks one of the Muslim rules. In other words, You can't say the Gospels are corrupted because the Quran says Allah's word cannot be corrupted. You can't say the Gospels are corrupted because, Allah through the Quran says that they are people of the book, and their book is good and they should judge by it. So we have this error, this dilemma that, again, Muslims can't get out of. And it's just, you can't say, oh yeah, I agree with you, but I disagree with you. I mean, that doesn't make sense, but that's what it is. So it'd be interesting to see more things come up with this as, Muslims try to engage in this conversation and try to make it more meaningful. But see, it isn't that easy to do now. Back 50 years ago, I'll say, there weren't a ton of scholars that could read, ancient Arabic, or that were really well versed in the, in the Quran and everything. And now, see, they can't use the argument anymore, which this hung on for quite a while. Well, you got to read it in Arabic. And it's like, well, that's strange. Most Muslims, they're saying only 15% of Muslims can read the Quran in Arabic because they're in other countries that have other languages. They don't know how to read ancient Arabic, and kind of you don't either, because your book has got all these marks in it telling you that have been added to the words of Allah that can't be corrupted or changed. You added all these little symbols to tell what vowels that aren't there should be there, and all these different things, which can actually grammatically change the meaning, and you've added those. So, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense, and there are huge numbers of people leaving the Muslim faith. Things like this can do it, but just even, you've got young people studying the Quran, and they read something and they say, why? And they go to their imam, that's like a priest, would be, or rabbi, and they basically come out a lot of time and say, you need to believe it, you don't question it. And I say, that doesn't work. That doesn't work at all. Yeah, there are some things that are mysteries, but it can't be everything. It can't be, every other line of the Quran is like, oh, no, that's one of those lines. You just have to trust it and believe it. You can't question it. It doesn't work that way for young people. So supposedly tens of thousands of mosques have closed in Iran, as basically that country, has gone backwards in just about any progress with the Islamic rulers. It just has kind of destroyed the country, and they say most of the people there are atheists now. Some predict 80% of Iran is actually atheist, but they still, if you were going to be killed, if you didn't do these things, say these prayers, well, yeah, guess what? They're going to do it to save themselves. And but if you're a Muslim, go ahead, tell me how that you can believe that the words of Allah can be corrupted selectively, and when the Quran is talking about the books that the Christians and Jews have as being right, those are the books we still have today. So how are you going to explain that? It's like the Quran validates the New Testament and the Old Testament, basically. And and this is another thing: Muslims don't like reading the Gospels. They stay away from that. They've always got something about. They want to talk about Paul, one of the letters of Paul, and this and that, because they don't want to talk about the Gospel, because everything is spelled out there pretty clear. So there we go. The Muslim dilemma, and this idea that early corruption or lost documents is why the Quran does not agree with the books that it says it agrees with.